George. Thank you. All right, call meeting to order at 4:01, I think it is. And going to do introductions and updates related to the master plan, if anyone has them. George Tolumpsis, I'm the planning board rep to this committee. I'm the vice president of this committee, and per the chair's delegation, I facilitate these meetings. And the thing, and I'm probably taking it away from other people, is the skate park, because I was there.
Absolutely.
As were many people. It's fantastic event, and it's just quite a creation. So it was great to see it so utilized so quickly. So
Awesome. Eric Tward, Director of Planning and Development. MJ Adams was my designee. It's been a while since I've been to this committee, a meeting, several years. But I'm here since MJ has retired. I will be assuming the role of planning director on this committee.
good to have you back.
Welcome. I'm Jonah Keene, public member at large.
Carl Warner, Director of Public Works.
Hannah Rekschathan, Chair and Member at Large, and I'm very excited about the Green River Fest coming this weekend, though I won't be here. It is bringing a lot of people into town, and hopefully they come downtown and visit our businesses. It would be wonderful.
Nancy Hazard, Member at Large, and I will cheer the skate park. It was a fabulous event.
Phil Elmer, representing the City Council, and I will mention that the City Council finally passed 11-1 with one absent, the rezoning of the French
Oh,
Canyon.
11-1, well done.
Opening up land for industrial development and supporting the Greenfield economy per the master plan.
Great news.
I'm Anna Altman. I'm the Community Development Administrator, non-member, just saying. I'm public member.
And I think Carol has joined as well.
Oh, excellent. Hey, Carol.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you.
Okay.
Director of Energy and Sustainability. Can you guys hear me? Last time I had trouble.
Yep,
Good.
Very great.
Can I share some news?
Yes.
please.
The city has received a gift. We are going net zero energy on the DPW office building.
That's awesome.
And
I didn't
I
even
played
receive the
music
gift
for
to go
the
net
council.
zero on the building.
I saw that. That was interesting, Carol.
What did you say?
She played some, what was the music, Carol?
It was Let the Sunshine In by Fifth Dimension.
Yes.
What'd you say? It's 9:30 and then you click the
I
music.
know, it was party
It's
time.
like, whoa, what's going on? We gotta get Carol home.
So Carol, you're talking about the older building that's on Wells Street? Not the new
No,
one's already.
no,
The
our
new
new
office
building.
The new
building.
building.
Oh, it wasn't net zero before? I thought it was.
It was close, but it will be now.
What are you gonna do to it to make it
Solar.
Getting
different?
a solar array.
Add the seat
Yeah.
pillar. Okay, thank you.
So
And can I
awesome.
add that Carol dropped the donor who had been anonymous, but she, with his permission, outed him, right?
I can get you the whole story. He wasn't really planning on working with Greenfield, and I made him the pitch, and he came back a couple weeks later and said, okay, I had the building. I gave him all the, as soon as he mentioned he wanted to do it, I was like, we got one for you. And
Amazing.
Good work,
Well
Carol.
done. That's amazing.
I use my arm twisting for good.
Can I ask you, Hannah, the other two committee members, Greta, Kim, had you heard from either one of them?
Greta was not able to come because of the food truck. Kim, I've not heard from.
I saw Greta this afternoon and she was hustling to the Greenfield swim area for that.
Gotcha.
So awesome.
Okay, next item is the approval of the May meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
I had a couple sort of updates on page, well, actually, I don't know what page it is, but under my update, toward the beginning of the notes, it said Mary had promised to
Yep.
find out if a working committee, if an open space and recreation committee. So otherwise, we don't really know what it means.
Right, thank you.
And you say there was no?
There is, just, let's see, so almost at the end, it says Hannah brings priorities back up. If you maybe would say master plan prioritization list or something. And then I remember that you suggested that we do that work in subcommittees. And then,
It was shut down.
yes.
Totally fine.
So then 2 sentences later, it says Nancy feels we need to do this as a group, not a subcommittee. And I would just add Mary and others agreed with Nancy. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. And hearing no objections to those edits. Any other discussion? None. All in favor of approving these minutes? Aye.
Abstain.
Abstention? No no's, I think.
Can't believe I got it passed with no George questions.
I talked ahead of
We already
time.
say, and next agenda item, DPW updates.
Oh, okay, 15 minutes. I don't know if I can go 15 minutes. but,
I believe
You could.
Yeah, I can.
Actually, I'll be a timer.
Yeah, I might
I
use
can do a
15 minutes and not realize it, but.
Right.
So some pretty exciting updates. I had told you all last month that next month I'll have some pretty good updates on some large projects that we're nearing finish, so. Phil, I'll save your favorite one till last. Sanderson Street, they put the final course on it on Monday. Tomorrow they are finishing. They're doing driveway aprons and cleaning up the parking lot that they use as a staging area. Sanderson Street will be done. That will be a completed project. So overall, I think it went very well considering the location and whatnot. We had very minimal complaints on the whole project as far as a project of that magnitude with the schools and city offices, hospital. Everyone did a great job with that communication group we put together with the schools and all the entities. So hats off to my engineering department. So West Street's complete. I think I may have announced that last month, but West Street is complete. Both these projects, water, sewer, drainage, all updated. New pavement, some sidewalk work. Wisdom Way, we're just about there. Where there's just a punch list to do and a few small items. Otherwise, that project is complete. I'm trying to work with Mass DOT to put together a ribbon cutting type ceremony with the mayor and so on and so forth. That come out wonderful.
It looks so good up there.
There's so many great comments coming in on that. So.
And just in time for the.
Yeah.
River Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So, yeah, a few little doodads and that's finished. On a personal note, that project seriously means a lot to me because I've been dealing with that hill for 24 years. No kidding. They found 3 feet of blacktop on the low side. We kept filling in and filling in and filling in and it was confirmed. So it's all good. It's going to come in on a project like that with the tip and TPO. We can go up to 10% over on the project and we're just going to sneak under because of increased costs the last 2 years. So, and there was some pretty good change orders. But basically that'll be wrapping up very soon. We just got to get sign off from the Conservation Commission and on a few things and we sign off on the finals of the project. So that's exciting. Update on the dewatering project. We hired Ty and Bond to do the engineering and design. We went through the process. We had
Sorry, what project is that?
the dewatering project at the wastewater treatment plant, basically putting a press in to press our sludge. Update on that, laid off the press this afternoon is we're negotiating with Ty and Bond to negotiate a cost for engineering and design. We're looking at 18 months between now and potential finish on that project. So there's a lot that goes into it. What else? Generator up to the Millbrook, the grant that we received for that Millbrook water fields, one of our water facilities. It's going into its 58th week waiting for the generator from Germany. So as soon as we get the generator, which is expected late next month, we'll be ready to go and that project will move right along real quick and get up and running. We're just waiting on the generator, the main piece of the project. So we just received a grant for lead and copper a lead and copper removal plan from our water system. So it was a $200,000 grant. We received it through DEP, actually the Clean Water Trust, which is DEP. We are way out ahead of the game on all our record keeping and everything. It's a plan to remove whatever we have left in our system, but we've got very good record keeping over the years. So that whole plan's going to come together, and that has to happen, be put together by November of 24. We're going to be way out ahead of it. It's a plan we need to initiate to remove whatever we find in the system. We have a few lead goosenecks out there on some service lines, stuff like that. So that's moving right ahead.
What was the amount of the grant?
I believe it was 200,000. Yep. And that grant was really special. There's no cash match or no in-kind services, straight up 200 grand. So, yeah, it reduces a lot of paperwork in the office, but, so.
What if that didn't cover everything? Then if you find stuff.
So that's phase two. Phase one is to come up with a plan.
Oh, this is just.
To evaluate our whole system, 5,700
Okay.
services and 110 miles of main. Evaluate our system to see where we have lead, if any, in the system. And then it develops a plan to how we're going to remove it going forward.
Got it.
I'm convinced we have no lead service lines, from the street to the house. We don't have any of them left. We've got a lot of what we call red brass lines out there that was known to have, it's a brass line, reminds you of copper. It was known to have lead in it, but we're going to determine all that. And then phase two is the big one. How do we replace how much and all that? So after November of 24, we're going to have a plan in place. I'll be planning ahead capital wise or whatever, have a pretty good idea of cost, which is a major deal in the water system. Newell Pond Road got completed real quick. I may have said that last month. The water main's been replaced, the 102-year-old water main. Had barely any pressure. Now we got all kinds of pressure on those hydrants, which is great for fire protection.
Can you spell that for me?
Which one?
Newell.
Newell.
And what did you call it? Newell
Pond. Yeah, water main project. Been another one of those things in the back of my brain for many, many years we need to take care of. So it's done. It's great. We are putting together the bid for the Nash's Mill water main installation. I'm not sure if I've spoke to the group about that project. So we have one water main that feeds the Meadows, what we call the Meadows area, northwest Greenfield. If that main goes bad under the river, it runs out through the country, goes under the river and comes out near Sauter Lane. If that was to fail, we have no way of getting water to that part of the community. So we have an opportunity from the Greenfield swimming area entrance to Lyden Road to tie a 12-inch main in and hang it from the new bridge to have redundancy in the system. So we'll never have that problem. We have lost water out there. And we should be sending out the bid pretty soon. We're hoping to get a start right after the swim area closes this fall, which is a really good thing as far as emergency management and redundancy to our system. We were pretty much freaking out during Irene when things were hitting all our pipes under the river and everything. And I was calling my father-in-law out there every half hour to get water pressure, turn the water on, turn it on. So, I'll sleep better in a flooding rain now once we get that installed.
So would that hook in near where the existing pipe goes under the river? How would it?
No, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave the one under the river.
Yeah.
That's up near the White Farm, if anybody's familiar with that, it crosses the river out through there. This is gonna give us redundancy in the system. So we're gonna put a brand new 12-inch main in. The main comes from Coleraine Road already to the swim area entrance. So we're gonna run from Lyden Road, which when we did the Lyden Road main, we already installed a stub pipe and valves into Nash's Mill. So we're gonna run pipe from there all the way over to the entrance of the pool. Of course, hang it from the bridge, which probably should have been done when the bridge was done, but I wasn't here. But we could hook it all together and now we have redundancy.
You're talking about the bridge over 91?
Nash's Mill.
Over
Nash's Mill
The new one
Bridge.
that just got put in.
The one that, yeah. It was designed to add a pipe to it. There's knockouts in it, but there's still a lot of work to get a pipe to hang from it. So, those are the up and coming things. We got, That's about it.
What's the cost of that one you just said, the redundancy of the 12-inch main?
I think the Nash's mill, we got it estimated at somewhere around 670,000. That includes hanging the main with the contractor. When we did Mill Pond, we came in 75,000 under what we estimated. We just got a great price. We hit it perfect. And we hit a company that does only water mains. So that worked out well.
I'm curious with the last thing as well. When you have the redundant, but do you use both active?
Yeah, they'll be tied in.
Yeah.
Your whole water system is a grid system anyways. It ties in everywhere. So like we get a water main break, we can isolate it. A lot of households still have water because it comes in from the other way. It's like a grid pattern. Think of a square grid pattern. Not the whole system isn't like that, but we're trying to take those areas out of the equation or give them redundancy so that when we lose water in an area that no one goes without water, as limited as possible. But
Are there other locations like that?
not specifically of that large area losing water, not having enough pressure to have water.
Gotcha.
This is a big one. So, well, what else?
You want to pause for any
How many
questions or
minutes
anything?
does-
Are we doing?
I thought I would be done in 3 or 4.
He's just finishing up 10. He's got 15 seconds, so he's under 15.
You want to pause? Are there any comments or questions?
I do have a question. I'm curious about how you investigate the lead line pipes. Is it through cameras or how is it?
So it's interesting. Every time we go in to change a meter or a sewer call, we've been having the crews even called out at 10 o'clock on a Friday night to make note of what's in the basement. We can tell with the water line through the wall what material it is, so on and so forth. We have good record keeping from many years ago where they use what they call lead bends off the main. There's a bend, and then there's sometimes a bend at the curb where it hooks to the curb stop. That's all for expansion and contraction. It was designed to move, but we do that with copper today. But there is some of them still hanging around out there. We have not found any lead in the water in these homes. So that's one way of telling. And then the ones we don't know about, when we get to the other end, we're going to have to do an excavation and find out. We've dug some up that didn't make the records that weren't there, which was good.
So is that what the firm is doing? I mean,
They're putting a plan together, all our massive amount of records on every main, everything that we've put together. They'll bring it all together. And then we'll have that punch list, I guess, of what we don't know.
okay, so when they bring it all together for $200,000, you'll know where all of the remaining lead is?
I guarantee most of it. I'm not gonna say 100% of the system. We're gonna have to investigate some of it, but I would say we're gonna be at least 95% there because of our good record keeping. A lot of communities don't even have their records on their installations from many moons ago, so.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I'm looking up to you, Carol, as well.
Come on, I gotta get 15.
The way you described the grid of the water system reminds me of when they designed the internet. The plan was to make it so that an atom bomb could land and the whole thing was, we just correct.
Still find another road.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
That specific scenario isn't mentioned in the master plan as far as.
Some of this stuff doesn't sound exactly the master plan, but, most everything we do connects to it somehow, one way or another, So,
Yes, yeah.
I'm gonna leave the trees to someone else. I didn't want to talk about.
What about the trees?
A big rant, all the trees we've been planting, I
Sure.
want to share.
Thanks.
So, all right, no questions, I'm done.
All right.
For now.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah, so much. That is such an accomplishment about it.
Oh, one other project I just remembered. And Eric's real familiar with this, sidewalks going in on upper part of Well Street. From the Complete Streets grant, there was money left. So there's gonna be some connecting sidewalks up the north Well Street. So that project's going on also. And we're getting ready to put out a $230,000 bid on in-house sidewalks throughout the community from appropriations. So
What's in-house sidewalk?
well, it's an in-house bid. It's an appropriation from the council. We have a separate list that we work on in-house, although my highway department's running at 50% right now, staffing. But this will go out to contract. I I didn't bring the list with me, I apologize, but.
Yeah, the in-house versus Complete Streets only does new networks, Complete Streets, whereas the in-house money can do renovated existing sidewalks.
Yeah.
Or create new ones.
And then in-house, not to be confusing, we do with our in-house highway traffic crew, we have areas we do to try and keep up with, you know, the immediate concerns, tripping hazards, so on and so forth, liabilities to the city. And then we also take a good portion of that money and we put it out to a contract because they can put out some long mileage in a hurry. Yes. Long footage in a hurry. That's what they do every day. So we do a combination to help save money for the community, or stretch our money, if you will. So, okay.
I'll just offer a reflection that, with regard to the paving, I was thinking when you said about Sanderson Street, that I bike up that hundreds and hundreds of times because I live a block away. And it was always, you know, uncomfortable. It wasn't a safety hazard or anything. It was just, you know, dodge little divots and stuff like this. And every time my partner and I ride, I was like butter. It's so smooth. And
now the traffic's got to look out for you. For sure.
And my partner this morning came down Smead Hill. And the top part is really rough, but as soon as you get to the Greenfield line, it's so much.
You paid that like 2 years ago?
Yeah. And there it is a safety issue. When you're going that fast down that kind of a steep hill, you can get really.
What's the status of Shelburne Road? Is that the one?
Yeah, the engineering and design's done on that. And I think we got engineering design appropriation because to file for these grants, and Eric, you can jump in if you want, but you really don't get many points. You don't have a good opportunity to get any kind of grants on a culvert replacement like that unless you're shovel ready. That's very important when you get graded. So in limbo, I think we're finishing up, or it has been finishing up, and we're just waiting to put in for some grants on that.
Talk about dangerous roads for biking now.
Yeah, that's been like that since 2001, the flood of 2001 when that collapsed on that corner.
But at least it's paved in it.
Yeah, we shimmed it. We didn't do a complete paving. We shimmed it, made it a lot better, but that corner's got to be fixed and that culvert's got to be done at some point. So.
Tried 3 times.
Yeah,
we weren't shovel ready. So
the culvert replacement isn't as simple as before you go in, you dig it up and you throw, you know, a culvert, and even a smaller one, plastic one. You got to go through all this permitting and you got to measure everything. They would like to see open bottom culverts, which really ramps it up. That's for, you know, your environmental and your species being able to travel, stuff like that in a waterway. So replacing a culvert isn't sending the highway crew up with a couple of pipes like it used to be. There's a lot more to it, which rightfully so. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Paul.
I don't want to be the one guy that says I'm critical with all this great news, because overall, great news.
Oh, yeah, because that is my deal.
And you look so sharp. So I don't want to like. The only critical thing I have is, I guess it's a question first, but so I live on Sanderson and I thought everything went really well. I was great. Ian did an awesome job communicating with us. Everything went really well. What I didn't see was green infrastructure incorporated in the project, which as a part of our master plan, that all of these projects will incorporate green infrastructure. So the area that I thought could really use it is there is slope on the hospital side of Sanderson there. There's some little bit of slope in Sanderson. On the other side, there's not a lot of slope, but you know, there could be, there's opportunity there to incorporate, diversion of water into a rain garden of some sort, other than just into the, so I thought there was opportunity there that was not taken advantage of to along the master plan. Otherwise, fully happy with all of it.
No, I'm with you. It's something that probably we didn't plan on in-house at the time, and we think of costs all the time. We don't know how tough budgets are and borrowing are these days. So, we didn't figure that. I mean, it would have been a significant increase in cost, but you're right. I don't disagree. And we got to find some room for some more trees on that west side too, as we had discussed, Mary, too. And we definitely got some room in those tree belts along there.
Yeah,
some
there are
extra trees.
part of the process.
Yeah. Well, we organized that part east of High Street. I think we figured that piece out, but you and I had talked early on in that project before it got going, that between Federal and the High, we're going to have some areas we can get some trees in. Definitely, we should do it.
And I'll just push a little bit and say I'd love to see that as part of the project rather than we should do it. Because then we just kind of lose track of it because you have, 50 other projects in your queue. So
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean because, I mean, we're driven. We think, we think about the trees. We work very well with the tree committee. But in my mind, we're under consent order for sewer. We got 140
totally.
water mains.
Yep.
And it's not that I don't think about it. It's just that what's all this going to cost to upgrade our 100-year-old infrastructure under the ground? So it's easy to forget.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what we're here to remind you.
Exactly, this kind of input.
All right, you're all invited to my first capital meeting.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see I'd be surprised if it's a huge added expense, but I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, no idea.
Like Hope is it Hope or Olive? I get which one's which there, the one that goes down.
Olive.
Transit.
Olive.
Yeah. Yeah, it has some green infrastructure there.
Yeah.
So we must have some record of.
But that was from a grant.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the,
And we, there's so many things to consider. We have to meet road width. We have to meet all kinds of things. Do we narrow it up with some more green infrastructure? And then you got 2 cars, where does the bicycle go? I mean, everything plays. My whole department, all 10 divisions plays into a project and the public works. So a lot of moving parts.
Thank you. Good discussion. As we go into this next one, I just want to check on timing because I know the CPC is supposed to start their meeting right at 5:30 when we're due to end in this room. So I wonder if we want to try to finish about 5 minutes early. Okay.
I have to go at 5, just to,
You had said in the email again. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, great.
So
All right.
you're up.
Well, not to derail us, but I did want to give one other update because I meant to send around, and I did post on the Greenfield Business Association Facebook page, the parking report from the other night from Stantec. And I will send their report around as well, but I'm sure it'll come up probably at the redesign workshop tonight.
It's actually part of the presentation.
But yeah, just really, I think as good news as you can get from a parking report about what Greenfield has, what's in place, and some impacts that could have on potentially lowering the demand for parking inclusion and development, which can be very helpful and attractive. So that was very exciting. And I will send that report around.
The good news being that we have plenty of parking.
The good news being that we have plenty of parking. Yeah, and then it's more about reordering our cost of parking to kind of encourage people to park in certain ways, which I thought it was really insightful. I hadn't really thought about it before, honestly. And it made me think of some things like they mentioned making the parking garage less expensive. And it made me think of Northampton where the first hour is free. And so it's, there's a real incentive to be in the garage and things like that. It just seemed like it was more kind of shuffling things around as opposed to having to build more or make developers include more, which leaves room for
Kind of like a
housing.
reorg,
Yeah, it's cool.
I found it sort of counterintuitive that their suggestion, some people say, well, parking on Main Street should be free to encourage shopping.
Right.
And it was the opposite. You should raise the prices.
Yeah.
So to discourage parking there.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, they said eliminate the time limits.
Yeah.
So you get to stay there forever, but you keep putting dollars in the meter. Is that
Yeah.
what they do?
As long as you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
and some people don't want to pay a higher meter cost, so they'll move out a little further out just for that cheaper cost.
Yeah.
Utilize it more. So they have, I wanted to mention that we had a final meeting with that a day ago. The report might still be slightly tweaked, so I would wait.
Okay.
Till they're going to set up an FTP site and give us all the final documents.
Awesome. Okay.
And then we'll have it all, including GIS data layers from the project.
Awesome.
And another comment from that dovetailed with tonight's presentation is that he was saying because there's such a surplus there and the number of parking spaces on Main Street are such a small percentage of that, if you're going to like parallel parking versus angled and losing a certain number, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
From the point of view of the overall downtown parking
Yeah.
capacity. So
Doesn't
that's
mean there
interesting.
won't be pushback The idea.
You know, it's so psychological and so much about perception. But
Yeah.
this is why having a dispassionate, objective, experienced, you know, because this was obviously, you know, the product of so much experience and so many different examples.
Was so interesting.
Yeah.
You know, like Fuss and O'Neill are approaching 10% of design. I met with them yesterday, and I'm not gonna spill all the beans, but there is 3 conceptuals now, and then actually the other one they come up with was quite interesting. You know, because they're gonna have to present the Mass DOT, and Mass DOT has to buy into all the standards and what we're doing, so. So not only we have to think about 2, there's gonna be 3 out there tonight, so.
Some people probably like that third option, but
Well, I don't know, some of them might run me out of the building tonight too.
So your tease is that it's interesting.
Yeah, the concept was interesting because I thought about one of these pieces of it early on. I'm like, that's never gonna work there. And all of a sudden it shows up. So it's interesting. Yes. I'm trying to tease everybody.
That meeting starts at 5:30.
6, yeah, 6 to 8.
No,
I think Marlo was asking me to give a quick update on the tree grant too, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
I want to share, you know, let everything go around.
Okay, this will be very brief. I was able to find my numbers. So in 2018, the city got a grant to plant 800 trees in around Greenfield, and that grant was supposed to be for 3 years, but it got extended to 5 because of COVID.
Can I just jump in?
Yes.
Is that to plant them on public space of the
Yep.
tree belt?
Public spaces, tree belts, parks, and other
But
city-owned
not
land.
private?
And front yards.
Oh, okay,
Within
okay.
20 feet of the front yard.
And when did you get that grant?
That was in 2018.
Thank you.
That was City of Greenfield, US Forest Service grant. So to date, as of the beginning of this spring, we have planted 634 trees. And when I say we, a lot of it's DPW, some of it's Greenfield Tree Committee. So we have 103 trees remaining. The math doesn't quite work because our number was actually reduced to 737 trees due to the drought last year. So I think we tried to get another extension because of the drought and they said no, but they lowered the numbers a little bit. So Greenfield Tree Committee's already planted about 45 trees this spring, so we're in really good shape to meet that very easily. And that grant also paid for the tree nursery that Greenfield Tree Committee is now running over at Just Roots. So
Really?
we'll be able to provide pretty much low to no cost trees for DPW and ourselves for planting around the city.
That's awesome.
Wow. How long has that been in place?
The tree nursery, we broke ground in 2020. And yeah, so we're in our 3rd full year. And we're going to be having an open house. This is just for other municipalities and other tree committees. That's on July 15th. And that's to do kind of a knowledge sharing that was part of the grant and to show people what it's like to run a nursery and just to share what it's like to get one of those grants and what it means in terms of the heavy lifting of getting all those trees in the ground and then watering them once they're in the ground. So.
And the tree committee is a private, it's not a non-governmental
Correct.
entity. It used to be. It used to be a city.
No.
Yeah, I was appointed to it by the select board when I moved to town.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
When was it abandoned?
Probably 15, 16 years ago, something like that.
Oh,
But
interesting.
in '02, it was, you know, it was an official town committee. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Great.
Speaking of watering trees, I already mentioned this to Marlo, the lovely trees on the Wisdom Way path with nice built up things to hold the water, but they aren't being watered. And Marlo's going to reach out to the contractor.
Yeah.
Who's responsible.
Contractor has complete site control of any project until we do the punch list and they turn the project over to us. So, but I did reach out to Ken, the resident engineer, tipped them off today.
And-
And they may not be a problem after this weekend, but forecast, but yeah.
I'll just add that all of the trees that Greenfield Tree Committee is planting, we are getting a commitment from the homeowners to water. So our goal is to have 0, watering needs for DPW or for ourselves. I mean, I know when you guys plant, you're going to need to get that water truck up and running, but
Yeah.
until then, we're trying to get more public buy-in and not be left with a big burden of trying to water trees during a drought.
Is that even in the ones in front of people's houses on the tree belt? Sweet. Nice.
So for the trees on the private property, how does that work? You got to get their permission? Okay. And it's 20 feet off?
Yeah, 20 feet off the sidewalk.
Okay.
Because it's seen as still having a public benefit. Yep.
That's awesome.
And the whole solar thing plays,
Haven't
in.
most-
There's all kinds of things to look at, yeah.
Haven't most of those people requested?
Yeah, for the most part, we're working off a request list. So we're working with people who want trees.
That's awesome.
And last one, have you had this, because this has come up in past years, have there been any times when there's a plan to put one in the tree belt, which is obviously not private property, and someone that has a house there objects?
Oh, yes,
Yes.
And does that deter the planting or just?
it depends.
Okay.
For the most part, I would say probably yes, just because there's no point in putting the effort in. I mean, until we have a different, I envision, I don't know, Marlo, but I envision some other way to roll out planting along streets where we're just saying, this is a public tree belt. And this year we're planting, trees on whatever the street is. And people don't really get a say to some extent.
That's how I do it.
I don't want that telephone pole there. I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. You go into a semi-drought year or a drought year, somebody's got to take care of them. Because if they don't want them, they're not going to want them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely, yes.
But if we just change the mindset of people, if we just treat it like we treat other infrastructure and say,
Yeah.
it's part of our infrastructure and it's
But
on.
we skip people that don't want.
We do.
The phone just continues to ring.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
Are shrubs included in, because I know one of the main concerns of homeowners, or at least that I'm aware of, is blocking solar potential on their roof.
No, so we'll plant small trees. So we're going to be planting trees on Sanderson Street in front of the, I think it's 9 or something, Sanderson, this week. And they're going to be shorter trees because they're getting solar installed. But we typically will only plant a shade tree where a shade tree can go, unless it's under a power line, and then we'll plant a shorter stature. But we don't plant shrubs just because of visibility and stuff like that.
I get the calls and emails all the time. Why'd you put a tree back in there? It heaved the sidewalk. It was up in the electric lines, but, to just run off what you said, it's a species of tree we choose to put back in there. It's not going to be a problem in the future. Very selective, which is great.
I remember when we were putting together the draft of the master plan and that I first learned the term green infrastructure. And I love that because it really makes it feel more solid for people who might not, just naturally think of it that way. So.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Awesome. So we are going to keep going with our committee priorities that we've been working on for far longer than I realized. So for Eric, and just to kind of catch up, we've sort of been taking a deep dive into our priorities. It sort of started because we had new members who are no longer that new. And then it also continued because we are, though I think we've decided to sort of continue utilizing the master plan as is, we were kind of coming up on the 10 years of the plan. And so taking a look at what's been accomplished, making sure that we're keeping track of those accomplishments, and then also really looking at how we connect outward to other committees, other organizations, departments, to be supporting work or highlighting tie-ins that maybe are being missed. Though so far it's been a pretty validating process, I feel like, of how many departments and organizations are interfacing with the plan. But it's also been good to kind of highlight where our priorities are as a committee, because we have a pretty diverse approach, I think, of interest, which is great. So what we started doing, I think now it was like 2 meetings ago, is we were just going through item by item and capturing both some comments and some action, and trying to move as quickly as we can, though it is hard to move quickly because there's so much information on every single item.
I could just offer a frame of clarity. This list is a sublist of the master plan. It was kind of a brainstorming of
Yeah.
us individually and collectively to put together things that look like we should focus on, so.
Yes.
All the objectives and action items in the plan, you took out what you thought would be priorities at this time and, okay.
Yeah,
It
I
was a
mean,
little more informal than that.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
more like the spreadsheet was created and the committee members were invited to go in there and write whatever they
Yeah,
wanted to.
and just kind of random.
Crowdsourced with a small crowd.
Some of the rows are not specified priorities in the master plan. Some of them are just things that people
Yeah.
thought were
That would be,
priorities.
okay.
Which personally was a little confusing for me, which is the ones that I put in there were all direct priorities
Yeah.
from the
From the
master
plan.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that made more sense to me. I'm a I like systems of looking at things organized way, so that was.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
And I just lost it. And just the only other thing about this, on the left-hand side, we had gone through and kind of split things up into categories of things that we felt were already underway, needing attention, a future idea or need that didn't feel like it was really of the moment, and then things that felt like they were sort of indivisible from another item. So as we go through, you'll see those headers.
Is this the right tab?
Will you click on action items, priorities organized by status? Yeah. And then the codes are the section of the master plan that they apply to. So land use
Youth and
and, yeah, see, you know.
Is it organized the way you wanted?
Yes, so things are,
See.
under the header that we had assigned to them at,
Right.
God, who knows when. So, it's a meeting. So I think we were on we left off at row 11. Habitat restoration, planting, and invasive removal. So again, just inviting additional comments and or action, info on other organizations or committees or departments that are working on things is also very helpful. And we are still in the section of things that are underway. So I think we kind of assumed that these were things that were being worked on.
Well, we certainly support the Greenfield Tree Committee.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing exactly right now?
So we're just, we had started putting in any action items that we might need. So it felt like it was starting to fall into categories of outreach, info gathering, anything. And there may not be an action for every single thing. You know, it's like if we get to something and the comment is that the Greenfield Tree Committee is on it, great. But if there's something we could do to support the tree committee, that's an action.
Well, one thing that occurs to me with regard to this, and I'm not sure what the mandate or mission of the Agriculture Committee would be, but I don't believe it's active right now. I think this
Yeah.
came up because
It's not active.
it was something that came to the planning board. They were supposed to run it by the Agricultural Committee, but there wasn't one.
It's large scale solar, large scale solar.
Right,
They're
right,
supposed to
right.
look at the farmland and the issues around it and make comments about it. There is no ag commission now, so they couldn't do it. Yep.
So
Interesting.
when you say there's no ag commission, there's still an ag commission, but there's no one appointed to it currently?
There's no active.
There's no active, yeah, it exists, a standing committee, but it's no one on it.
Is it funded?
Well, all these committees are not funded. They're just,
I see.
yeah. No, the funding is not, is no issue.
It's like the Youth Commission, which has been,
I think-
it's dormant. I think it's
We
what it is.
deleted the Youth Commission because it was being funded,
Really?
but there was no commission.
Delete the commission.
We didn't give them any money.
But it's still in the,
No, they do. There is money in the budget for various things.
but it's still in the charter, the Youth Commission, as is the Agricultural Commission, so.
But the funding is an embarrassment. It's like $500 for youth.
So related to this, I mean, one thing, again, with our high level looking at this, and I don't know exactly, as I say, what the mandate of the Agricultural Commission is, but it occurs to me for this, and certainly for a lot of different things we talk about, it seems like having an active agricultural commission.
Yeah, well,
Important to me.
down in the next section too, safeguarding agricultural land is one of the things that was put under future idea or need, and that too, I think, would fall into that question.
A similar thought is the open space committee, which I think this could also fall under, as well as other things on here, which to me seems like a great role for us is to help those to happen, right?
Those committees.
Those committees. You know, like that seems, an open space committee, my biased opinion, is a hugely important thing that we don't have here. And this would be something that they would be looking at.
Yes, sir.
To give an update on that, I mean, 2 mayors, I have tried to get a standing open space committee, but both of them said, no, we have too many committees, it's hard to fill. Let's don't make it a standing committee, and we'll only do an ad hoc committee when we need to update the open space and recreation plan. So it has been attempted, and
And that
the
one
answer was
doesn't,
no, previous mayor and the current mayor.
and that one doesn't exist yet. That's
It doesn't exist yet. Where the ag commission does exist, it just needs to be filled with people.
Interesting.
Oh, so many questions.
Yeah, I was just going to make an observation about the ag commissions. I used to support ag commissions when I worked at the FERCog, and they can be a real drag on farmers because a lot of times farmers are filling those seats and they already have way too much to do. And also, a lot of times ag commissions don't have a very clear vision of, you know, sort of what they're doing. So my experience has been is the places in which ag commissions have worked the best is when they make a meaningful, you know, vision or goals that support them in their work instead of just having this weird commission that meets and doesn't have a meaningful role in their lives. So an example would be in Heath, they had a super active ag commission and they did a lot of work. They sought grants, things like that. So it can be a very positive thing, but I think to get an ag commission going here, Greenfield's a little different from the more rural areas. It would take maybe some investigation of what ag commissions around in Massachusetts are like highly active right now and what makes them a good commission. I would suggest maybe somebody could look into that and use that as a way to start working toward reestablishing an ag commission that has a meaningful role in town.
I would think a good place to start would be looking at whatever's in the charter as far as describing
Its mission, exactly.
its mission. Yeah. 'Cause that, I mean, if you look at ours, it's pretty clear in a lot of ways about what we're supposed to be doing. So I wonder if that's something we could do just to, because it's not being pursued by anybody else, I assume.
Yeah.
And just kind of look at that and maybe flag parts of the master plan that could perhaps draw some attention from an ag commission.
Mary, from your experience dealing with ag commissions, is this something that we should be lobbying for in Greenfield? Or
I feel like
an ad hoc thing?
I have thought for a long time that there could be a really great role for an ag commission in town that would sort of overlap between food production and food processing because of all the food processing we have in town. I do think that there's a way, if somebody wanted to invest energy into reviving the commission, I think there's a way to do it in a way that would be really beneficial to the city and to folks who are growing and producing and processing food.
I would love for the impetus for that to come from the farmers or the processors.
They don't have time.
But they would have to, they would be manning it or staffing it.
Yeah.
Well, would they?
Not necessarily. I mean, my understanding is, at least in recent years, the staffing was non-active farmers, non-farmers at all, so.
Yeah, and Nathaniel Hussey, a former planning board member, was on it. And he's not a farmer.
Oh, okay.
He was on it?
Yeah, he was.
Quite recently?
He chaired it for a
He
while.
chaired it for a while, yep. He recently had a baby and that's why he got off the planning board, so maybe he didn't, but his wife did.
Troublemaker. So really quick, in the next section, under safeguard ag land, I'm just gonna, or I just did drop an action in there, to look at the Ag Commission charter, assess the mission, and maybe look at the master plan to identify ways an Ag Commission could be helpful. And when we're done with this process, I can pull out a whole action list, sorted by all of this as well. So and then if someone wants to take that on, I think that could be really helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the open space plan. Yes, I know the history, but an action might be that after the next mayoral election to revisit that possibility and depending on who the mayor is, advocating.
Or is it seem like has there been advocacy to this mayor, or is it like how much of a process has it just been her opinion to not have one, or have people pushed?
It was me advocating for it and her saying no.
Yeah.
I thought that was the open space.
The open space committee, yeah.
Eric, do you want me to try next time I meet with him?
You can do it.
No, I didn't want to do it.
So I would be willing to volunteer to look at since I brought it up, look at the charter at least and look for things in I don't have the implementation chapter with me, but I think it probably flags Ag Commission in some of those. And
No doubt.
I'd be willing to try to compile that and report back.
Great.
And I'd be willing to partner with you
Great.
in terms of looking at what other ag commissions are up to and seeing if they can
That'd be helpful.
grab a few juicy bits that might
Nice.
work well here in town.
And I'll check with Natty too about his experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Since he was so involved. That's great. Yeah.
So for this particular line item, I don't know how much the this would only be relative, the Ag Commission would only be involved on ag lands for habitat restoration wouldn't be a huge ag committee project, I wouldn't think, compared to the open space.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep the ag thing, I think, down next to safeguarding ag land.
Right.
But it's in there. It is
So,
in there.
While we're still on this topic and the open space
Yes.
committee, just one last question for you, Eric. I saw your name when I looked at the open space plan. Are you the one responsible at this, since there is who's responsible for implementation of that plan? We have a great plan, has a lot of good elements to it.
Yes, so that's a great question. Multiple departments are responsible for the implementation of the plan.
Yeah.
Christy Moore has
Yeah.
really delved into it and
Yeah.
has implemented the plan. But we do the plan in-house for the first three plans we did in-house, and the last one we had the Franklin Regional Council of Governments update the open space plan because we didn't have the capacity resources to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's exactly right.
When was that last updated? Sorry.
19 or 21?
20,
Somewhere in there.
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It's good for 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think it's great. Just an open space committee would really help to move it along.
Yes.
And I think it would check a lot of the boxes on this spreadsheet that would remove it from our committee to that committee,
Yep.
which would be great.
That's great.
I like Nancy's idea about trying to
So you're
get it
gonna
going.
take that on,
By running for mayor.
approaching the next mayor?
On our agenda, but after
Yeah.
the next election,
Yeah.
this committee
Yeah.
reconsider, or look at that possibility.
Got it.
Absolutely. All right. Good to move on? Awesome. Improved bicycle infrastructure and promotion of cycling for local travel. I just want to say in this, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this recently, and of course, the Main Street project happening. I met a gentleman at Juneteenth down in Deerfield who has been trying to advocate for bike lanes in Deerfield, and so was sort of looking around. He said, I think he spoke to you at some point. And so, just, I feel like there's a lot of movement around this and it's already happening, but also, is there more that we could do, or anything that we want to kind of flag as helpful to this process?
Can I ask George, did you have success with your request for money from the Community Preservation Act?
Oh, no. It was that was a complicated request because it was cross town and stuff like that. It was a long shot.
But is there a way to move forward with it without that money? Another way to do it.
Not that I'm aware of, but yeah.
So one of my memory is that there was also a proposal for the CPC money in Deerfield.
Yes.
And when is that meeting going to happen?
No, that's already, it happened quicker, so it was around the same time. And because the Greenfield money wasn't happening, it wasn't gonna happen either.
So it was, yeah, okay.
Is there a way to coordinate efforts around CPA funding between towns and make like a dual
We kind of.
project? Oh.
The first line made the
That's,
same.
didn't, got it.
Yeah, we totally coordinate our efforts.
Are there other sources
That's so
of money?
disappointing.
Because CPC money is not very big.
Gotcha.
Is there another way are there other models for building this kind of?
Sure. Well, if I could say that was a particular project I know that I've envisioned and some people might like. It's the quadrennial regional transportation plan is just being finalized by FERCog. And I just spoke at their public session last Thursday, and they have that again in their report as a potential. And I just emphasized to them, it'd be great if they could get something going because it's such a regional benefit and such a regional type of project. But, there's nothing committed to that. But as far as this goes, I think that's my comment in italics there. I really think it would be good to have a bicycle committee, which was part of the master plan recommendation. At the time it came up, we did have an active informal kind of comparable to the tree committee, Greenfield Bicycle Coalition. That group actually crafted the first version of the Complete Streets policy that we now have. This committee put it forward, and then it was approved by the council. So, and it was endorsed by the planning board. So it was very active, and it just kind of, as happens with these things, we kept busy with other things, and it fell dormant. But there have been some recent interest I heard, and you're saying so.
Yeah.
I could try to, kind of rekindle that. Short of, I'm hearing about all the struggles to get, staffing, or volunteers for town committees. So maybe that would be.
I was going to suggest that bike shop owners probably have the biggest vested interest in encouraging this. And it was Chris Ether, the former owner of Bicycle World, who got he got that bike path and bridge built that goes to the Green River swimming area. And anyway, we have a new owner of that shop.
Yeah.
And he's very interested in public projects. So,
Outer Limits is also getting a whole makeover. Is that the shop or is that?
no, I'm talking about Bicycle World.
Bicycle World.
They're both on Federal Street, but
I keep driving by Outer Limits and
This is High Street, yeah.
they're doing a lot on their building, which maybe it's just my little business brain, but it always indicates to me kind of an uptick in sort of interest and outreach when someone's kind of drawing that attention.
Well, there was another bicycle shop just next door, and the owner died.
Right.
So they're picking up the business that had.
Got it.
Bicycles Unlimited.
But
Wonderful guy.
I think one thing too that feels kind of, I guess, especially pertinent around cycling right now is the intersection of commuting and pleasure biking when we have so much emphasis going on tourism. The chamber's really hot on tourism. And the idea that maybe there's a coalition to be built around all the reasons that people are on bicycles and really form maybe, bringing a bicycle committee back right now, we could really encourage that committee to be made up of people who are bicycling for all different reasons and get a critical mass of interest.
And that is emphasized in the master plan, in the transportation chapter about bike tourism. And again, at the regional transportation plan, I suggested they put in the R2, the Deerfield Dirt Road Randonnée, which is almost 20 years it's been officially around. And it is, people don't know about it, it is huge. It's the It's the main fundraiser for the Franklin Land Trust. And it draws people from all over. I don't do it because I'm not mostly into road riding, but I've run into people during that event when I've been out, and they're from, all over the country. It's very, very appealing, and it's for a wonderful, cause. And the other thing I'd mention too is there's a brand new state law that Mass Bike has been lobbying for years. Defines vulnerable road users. It requires now you have to be at least 4 feet from a cyclist when you pass them, and other things. So there are things happening that are relevant.
Carol has raised her hand.
Was it? Oh, thank you. Hey, Carol, sorry about that.
No problem. I just wanted to, if I could, chime in a little bit because
Please.
I think this is a critical issue. And again, my lens is more looking toward achieving a more sustainable community, but e-bikes, I've been definitely turned on to the importance of e-bikes, and our goal needs to be, even though we have electric vehicles, the goal is to minimize the use of vehicles, especially single vehicle trips. And e-bikes are they're great because they are accessible to many more people. I know it's been looked at a little bit in the past, but I did put something there, and there was supposed to be an incentive available to purchase them, but I would really, that's something I would put my hat in the ring on to promote, and in a cohesive manner to kind of alleviate people relying on vehicles.
Yeah, it's really helpful with the terrain.
As the owner of 2 e-bikes now, I support that. I had a question about the bicycle maps that were put out some years ago.
They're still put out by FERCog. It's the
FERCog, yeah. I think there could be a case made when and if we do get bike lanes in Greenfield on Main Street, for revisiting those maps and making all the connections possible. Because I think Main Street will plug into a lot of existing really great biking and show people where it is.
That could be a perfect DLTA type project through the FERCog.
What kind of?
DLTA is direct local technical assistance. So that might be a project that the FERCog could update, the bike maps for a specific area.
Who's the contact there for that? There was a bicycle lady.
Beth Giannini, I think.
What's her name?
Beth Giannini. And they're it's the Franklin County Bikeway.
Right.
It's huge.
How do you spell
200 something miles.
GIANNI or something like that. Giannini.
I think it's got 3 N's in there somewhere.
But I think though that they would do that on their own. We just give them information. They wouldn't have to use local technical assistance funding for that. It's their plan. It's the regional plan. So we could just reach out to them and say, hey, here's some information that's now new, and probably want to update your maps, and they'll do that.
Good idea.
Great, but we need the lanes in the city.
Yes.
To make that happen. Okay.
Also, just one last fun fact on bikes that I learned the other day when I was at AAA, is that AAA now includes 2 bicycle responses in your membership. So if your bike breaks down, they will come and try and help you fix it. And if they can't, they respond with a vehicle that they could put your bike on and drive you back somewhere safe so that you can wait for a ride or something. So 2 visits.
Wow.
For a broken down bicycle.
That's great.
And they were very proud telling me about this inclusion, so.
With an electric bike, that's actually really important.
Right.
Very heavy.
They're very heavy. So I suggested that they maybe set up a tent at the farmer's market and share that information, because it seemed like there'd be a lot of crossover interest, but.
Okay, well, we made it through 1 line. Can we go to the next one?
Yeah. Technically, we've made it through 2.
Okay,
But completing Main Street parking and bike lane process, I think, is probably pretty much in
I think we should skip
action.
over
That's
that.
in action, and being done.
Bike path linking Greenfield and Deerfield, I feel like is also sort of tied up in the conversation we just had. Anything else about
That
that?
was the CPC proposal.
Yeah.
So I am gonna do it again next year.
Nice.
I'm just gonna make it more ambitious.
FRTA advocating for better service, anything advocacy wise that is needed?
I can speak on what's happening because I'm the FRTA chair of the board, advisory board, and a group has been meeting to discuss the pilot project for weekend fixed route service, at least Saturdays to start. And we're still trying to figure out the budget for that and how it'll work. And some of the issues are coming in as a union, trying to get CDL drivers to be able to do it. And getting enough people in there so that there's enough critical mass for the bus drivers to be able to do that. So we're still working on that, and we're going to be meeting over the summer and figure that out. We were planning on doing a pilot project in September, but I don't think that's going to happen.
There are also I know I mentioned it here, the FRTA Access Program, which is not a fixed route. Eric is referring to a fixed route.
Fixed routes.
And the Access Program was this originally pilot project. And then it's become really established. It's been extremely successful.
Yes.
What, 3 years, I think?
Yeah.
It's been going, and that does include weekend service.
Yes.
It's a more expensive. I think it's like about $3 a pop in each way. But you can schedule it door to door. And it's combining rides that are already happening to some degree. It's very innovative. It's been, others in the state have been learning from this experience. And lastly, I'm part of because I'm on the Transit Advisory Committee for the FRTA, there's a subgroup that have been looking at fares. And there's a consideration, as it's happening in a lot of places, of making the fare free that has happened throughout COVID permanent. Because some places have done that. There's a lot of debate about that, but that's being considered as another potential strategy to increase ridership.
Awesome.
Did take a vote at the annual meeting to extend the free fare for a year.
Great. All right. Electric buses. Anything around action items around this?
I talked to Michael Perot about the new facility just an hour or two ago. And it's definitely on his radar screen. And he says there are two businesses on the same road that there's definitely three-phase electricity there. And basically what he says is that it's a high priority of the state. The DOT is keeping their eyeball on money so that it can happen. So it's sort of like, we're watching, wait for the money.
Michael Prawls is the assistant administrator, the FRTA.
So that's taken care of. The state is working on it is the answer.
Yeah, well.
And the FRTA.
It's for us to keep our eyeballs on it for sure, but
No
I
action.
don't think there's a lot to do right this minute.
Okay. Downtown revitalization plan. I was also curious about this. Anna or Christian, do you know anything about this plan sort of moving forward, or this process moving forward? Are we waiting on a new economic development director?
Yeah, the plan was finalized, but yeah, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of implementing it, I guess, kind of is in limbo because MJ was the one, her position is the one to be spearheading that, so.
So it's, all that work is just on hold right now? It's all the.
Well, the individual projects are continuing, but the idea of like doing the entire plan and like launching that as a single idea, that's MJ's position, is doing that.
So we need to hire someone to do.
Yeah, and her position is being hired, so.
Yeah.
But it's like individual stuff is still ongoing, like library is one of the projects that's on there, obviously that's still ongoing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, parts of it's being implemented as we speak, and it just got finished, so it's really no delay that much, as long as we can hire an economic development director soon.
Awesome. Expanding areas zoned for industrial park.
It happened.
Happened.
Yay.
Big yay under that one.
What an interesting progression of votes, huh?
Yeah, it went from 3 votes
Three
in
votes.
favor to 7
Seven.
votes in favor to 11. We would have had 12 if whatever.
Jasper.
But it was a
Jasper.
process where what was being proposed changed
It did.
during the process.
It did.
A very small, it was a smaller change than we promoted it as. And we just cut off one bit of the property. But it,
Fish.
the tail of the.
I personally believe it was more about time going on and education during that time. The small change in the map was irrelevant, I think. It made a little bit of a difference, but not a lot. It was more about hearing about the significance of it and finally getting educated and learning about it and doing the right vote.
From my perspective, the fact that they just carved all that money out of, they wrestled, the city council had wrestled with, we only have so much money.
Right.
How are we
School
going
budget.
to pay for school and debt service and so forth? And having realized that we had a limited quantity there, the possibility of increasing that quantity was very attractive. And it was interesting. I wouldn't talk about individual councilors.
Right. I'll just say though, that last night, listening to the discussion,
Yeah.
the deliberation, there were still a lot of people had mixed feelings and qualms and this and that. And it wasn't evident that it was definitely going to pass. Yeah.
At the last second, they're like, well, I'll vote for it.
I had threatened to table it if it wasn't.
I heard that.
The president didn't appreciate it. I could count heads, and when it got to me, I knew we were gonna make it. So I told my best.
Awesome. I'm gonna couple the next two, downtown art and activities and downtown beautification. No, you're totally good. I know from the GBA perspective, we definitely have been talking a lot about downtown beautification and sort of the downtown activity in general. I always now make a point to say, because we get so much flack for it, we are a Greenfield wide business association. We serve all businesses, not just downtown. But it's definitely on our radar that downtown is very much the driver and the heart. So I will roll out more information as we kind of decide on things. And then I think similarly, the Urban Agenda Grant, if we get that in October, which was what Anna and Athena came and presented to us a couple meetings ago, about the potential to create an organization that would specifically focus on arts and culture downtown. If we get that grant funding in October, we would have a real sort of body to drive something forward. So anything else about kind of action around these two things that feels kind of relevant to note?
I
Yeah.
ask you to click on the column, the response. I'm trying to remember what it was that I said there.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So I have a theory around like East Hampton and Montague that they had dedicated or have dedicated folks, specifically working on arts and cultural things that really
Right.
have helped.
Made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And that's what the Urban Agenda Grant would fund,
Oh, that'd be great.
which would be, well, it would fund the ideally the creation of an organization that would be that driver.
I think what
is the idea.
works so well in some communities is having an actual staff person.
Staff
Part of the planning department.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's more what I'm suggesting.
That's the East Hampton model.
Yeah.
So, you'll just hire somebody, right?
But that person
Again, I
won't
would.
be in the planning department, is that what you're saying?
That person will not be in the planning department, and I think, in my opinion, it's beneficial for that role to not be part of the municipal government, in part because they become a more nimble organization. They can go after grant funds on their own more quickly, and the subcontracting process, especially around public art, is much easier if you are not governmental. But working together and being excited about one another, definitely crucial. And that is not always the case. So I think the fact that the Urban Agenda Grant is generating from the Economic Development Office bodes well for whatever organization would be output by it. I don't know, Anna or Christian, if you guys want to add anything about that grant in general, but.
Yeah, that's how the grant was structured, that it would set up a non-governmental entity, yeah.
In my personal experience, municipalities, if they don't have staff that's educated on or know about art and what the whole thing is, it's hard to interface with them. Whereas East Hampton, you have that staff person that they directly interface with. And if you look at East Hampton and look at how it's changed over the last 10 years, it's partly because of that position. I think the opposite, and that the municipal role would be more important.
I agree.
That's interesting that Hannah and Krishna are aware of this, that the FERCog is doing a study of downtown organizations in Franklin County, just trying to get a sense of what works well for different types of downtown. So that might yield a different perspective about what Greenfield needs.
Yeah.
And we don't know for sure that we'll even get this grant this year, so.
And it doesn't have to be an either or thing.
It definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't. I think it also can have a beneficial impact on the salary of that person if they can fundraise for their position, which is not always possible. And I know in the case of East Hampton, that person did an incredible job. It was a lot of goodwill, as it often is in the arts.
And that person in East Hampton, the staff person, was someone who was specifically had an arts type of background, you mean, or something, or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So be if you could hire someone with that kind of.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Carol, this reminds me of what you used to say that what Greenfield downtown needed was an art director. To control the style of everything.
One just.
Are you attributing that to me?
Well, you're the one I heard it from.
I don't think I said art director, but definitely design guidelines. Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
One quick observation from the parking discussion was that someone asked about having, I think it was during COVID, a few spaces were sometimes set aside for some tables or something like that. And he was strongly encouraging of that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
What happened to the ice cream shops? They had a larger
Got
structure.
taken away from them.
By the mayor just did it?
Well, what was said at the parking meeting was that in order for them to have that space, they would have to have a bathroom, which they didn't have. So, but they figured out that if the space belongs to the city, they don't need the bathroom. So was clearly a way of getting around that requirement.
Yeah, I think that there was some special conditions in COVID that allowed it to happen in the first place, and that the administration was just trying to make sure they were doing their due diligence in terms of, in particular, ADA compliant bathrooms. And the possibility of having a sort of municipal little mini park in some parking spaces that's not attached to a particular business might be a workaround, which at least my sense is that we're interested in doing. Yeah.
Just time check, we're trying to stop at 25 past to accommodate the CPC because you guys are starting right at 5:30.
Yeah.
And so we got about a little over 5 minutes till then. Well, if there's a lot for announcements or.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind making just kind of a big picture observation on this process since I'm somewhat at fault for instigating. This meeting has been really helpful for me in that, so we've, in this short conversation, come up with 4 committees that we want to create, right? An ag, an open space, an arts, and a bike groups.
Yeah.
So to me, that seems like a great role for us, right? We talked about that maybe at the last meeting and how we're not going to implement all this stuff as this committee.
Absolutely.
but that seems like a really concrete,
Suggestion.
like, as far as how to prioritize. If we could work to help get, because as you know, we don't have an open space committee because it's been hard to fill spots in the past, but how hard have we tried?
Right.
Like, have we had someone like really dedicated? Yes, is the answer yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Well, if we continue to push, like use our time to push to create some of these groups, like that could really pay off. Like active, like, I don't know, I could see that being a huge role for this. And that adds some clarity for me if we go that direction.
As you were talking, I was thinking, and it would make sense to have a member of this committee serving on some of those committees that we're trying to, you know, see or get reinvigorated or
I mean,
whatever.
absolutely. That was the same thought. I was like, I'd love to be on the open space committee, bike committee, ag committee. Like all of a sudden, we're like the reps already. So it's like, I don't know, it makes a lot of sense to me.
We should
I
just
agree.
have all the volunteers in place and say,
Yes.
start this committee, we got the committee.
Yes. And I would, sorry, go ahead.
To some extent with the open space committee, I mean, I said, here's like 4 or 5 members. That's what I'm recalling anyway, Eric, you know. I mean, I was definitely sort of stacking the deck toward, you know, tree related folks, but still, I mean, it didn't seem like it was that heavy a lift to staff it. I don't know if it was a standing committee, if it would be a different picture, because we had sort of a beginning and end date when we asked people to be on the open space committee.
Well,
And I would just.
one of the key
really quickly
committees that-
put a
Oh, go ahead.
caveat and say around an arts committee that I think I would put that on the list if we are not successful with the urban agenda grant, because this city, I will underscore city, is way overdue for having a paid arts position, whether it's in the government or non-governmental. We are well past the arts committee capacity.
And I guess my thought is there, it's not necessarily a committee for everything, but like
Yeah.
working to create
Yes.
others
totally.
working on these things, like.
Totally,
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, the planning board, I've been here 16 and a half years, and, you know, it's almost going defunct now. We're going to only have 3 members, and it's like the worst it's been in 16 and a half years, so it is harder to fill committees. There's no doubt about it.
I don't know what the numbers are, but it seems like there's younger folks, like in my neighborhood, there's like families are sprouting up left and right. Younger folks have moved in the 7 years since we moved in our house. And I don't know if anyone's been approached. Like there's folks, like, I don't know, I feel like there's new people that we can try to.
On that subject, I think to add to the list of things that this committee could kind of be helpful in trying to find new board members for the Greenfield Business Association. I've done a lot of outreach to kind of younger people, and I encounter a lot of people who have never considered that kind of service, don't know what that kind of service entails.
That's right.
You know, haven't been asked, and more I'm finding that employers are a great way to kind of get to people, say, hey, who is on your staff? You know, that maybe just moved to the area or maybe whatever. And so cultivation of public service in some way, just general, just sort of like going into a bank and being like, hey, you know, you've been here for 8 months, you live here, like, what are you doing in your free time?
I made a note to self going to this meeting this evening. That we're going to look for potential planning board members.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people are
Exactly.
interested,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So some sort of outreach effort, organized outreach effort or covert ops too.
So it sounds like we've kind of wrapped this up. Should we go to announcements? Are there any? And we could think about future agenda items too, because I know that you were wondering if we were going to have something from Carol and Phil about the public.
Oh, yes, there was.
The next time.
Yeah.
Is that realistic, Carol? And Phil?
Carol, when could we deliver a speaker?
Or an idea?
I really don't know. I am beyond capacity, and they want me to send them all kinds, or, you know, you saw the email, Phil.
Yeah.
As with all of this stuff, it's you know, it's a heavy burden to make it happen. So I'll do my best, but I just had another project fall into my lap from another committee too. So
In that specific case, though, if we could get her out here, and spend a couple of days and get to know Greenfield, I think she could do better.
What I'm looking for is a report from the two of you about ideas.
Right.
I'm not asking you to organize it all.
Well, we had an idea, we have an idea, we have someone who would
Can
be
you,
willing to.
can you
do
share
for
it with
free.
us next month?
Yeah, next month.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
That's what we'd like.
Yeah, thanks. Any other announcements? Not-
Or agenda items.
Yeah, I would love to see this back on the agenda and
Yeah.
prioritized again.
This was a productive meeting, I thought.
Awesome.
I don't know if there's any way to carve out more time. It feels like by the time.
I will keep trying. I had it on here for an hour, but there's never enough time. I know. I will definitely keep putting it on there and try and do it for a full hour. So maybe next time between sort of a quick pitch for a speaker, we could go right into this and just keep going because it does create a lot of other, action items.
Any other announcements?
I have a question. Have we got those new tourist maps yet?
The discovery maps?
Yeah.
Yes, they're in my car. You want some?
I did.
Hey, I have so many. They're so cute. Greenfield looks amazing.
Cool. Can you bring those next time?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And my car's out back if anyone wants to see them.
I
Like
move
a
for
dealer with
adjournment.
those.
Cheers. All in favor? Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Guys.
Is the committee waiting outside?